Welcome back to Oldham, and by popular demand, the A to Z of Oldham Mills. Today we are covering 3 mills, all beginning with the letter A, and all next to each other. The Albert, the Acre, and the Alexandra, located in Acre. But today, it is more commonly referred to as Derker, thanks to the nearby tram station. These mills were mere spitting distance from the original Hertford works of Platt Brothers, making them an ideal location for modern improvements and excellent railway connections. Starting with the oldest, the Acre Mill was on Acre Lane in Acre, clearly making a name for itself rather rapidly as the first water mill in the immediate area. Powered by the River Beal, which is a tributary of the River Roach. The first known documentation of the building, or mention of its use, was in 1776. This is a popular year for mills, or maybe it's just the first year anyone wrote them down. This causes much confusion locally, and is a popular dispute to have when signs are placed stating it as fact. 4 other mills are documented to be operational before 1776. But of course, we then get into the argument, what is the boundary of Oldham? This map dated sometime after 1864 because it shows the newly opened Royton branch line. This is the earliest map I can find. In 1814, the mill was owned by Samuel Radcliffe, prior to him building Lower House Mill in 1821. In 1874, James Stott and Co. erected a new mill on the site. In August 1875, a young man named John Williams was charged with arson. Joseph Wolfenden, engineer of Mr. James Stott, Acre Old Mill, said that about a few minutes past 12 o'clock, he was passing through the mixing room and he perceived a smell of burning cotton. He had a short time before being in the mill, and during his absence, he had left the door of the mix room wide open, and he had seen the prisoner enter. When he returned, he found that an apprentice named Rye had the prisoner in custody. He smelt fire, and on making examination, discovered an armful of burnt cotton just at the top of the stairs in the room where the fly was kept. He afterwards went into the mixing room, where there were about 9 or 10 bales of cotton packed together, and he found a handful of burning cotton stuffed between the bags, and another portion of smouldering cotton on the top of the bags, where afterwards ascertained the prisoner had been found lying. He also discovered several partly burnt matches on the floor. Police Constable Shaw stated that when he received the prisoner into custody, Williams had no tobacco in his possession and could not explain the matches in his pocket. Acre Mill ceased production in 1932 and was demolished the next year. The site today is mostly industrial units and a few houses, but you can clearly see where the mill ended and the original terraced housing begins on Acre Lane. In 1868, the Alexandra became the second mill on Acre Lane, across the road from its older and much smaller sister. Built by the same Stott family who would build the new and improved Acre Mill 6 years later in 1874. That would be Robert Stott, who would be plagued with issues from both mills. Son of James Stott and Martha Hilton, Robert also became a farmer in 1881, perhaps to get away from the hassle of mill ownership. The Manchester Evening News, Friday 9th March 1883. Strike of Oldham minders at Alexandra Old and New Mill and Acre Mill, Oldham. The minder would make minor adjustments to their mules, to the extent that each mule worked differently. They were specialists in spinning, and were answerable only to the gaffer. The operatives wanted an additional halfpenny per 1,000 hanks. A hank of cotton is 840 yards, 770 metres long. In today's money, they went on strike for another 58 pence per 1,000 yards of cotton. In January 1889, a huge fire broke out whilst everyone was still at work. The urgency to exit the building caused several to be severely crushed. The roof collapsed, and the upper stories were completely destroyed, causing several £1,000s of damage. The lower floors were protected by the patented Abraham Henthorne Stott, Sr. improvements in the construction of fireproof and other flooring. In other words, his father saved half of the mill and all of the second building when he redesigned them in 1871. It was still an expensive price to pay, but it could have been a much higher cost in lives and machinery. With repairs well underway, production would have to be shifted to other mills, so the last thing Robert Stott would have wanted would be a factory's inspection. But in August 1901, that's just what he got, and with troubling errors on both sides. The inspector, Mr. Crabtree, found one of the boys oiling the spindles during his dinner, which is a breach of regulations, and it should have been reported to the minder for a summons. The inspector did not do this. He went straight to summoning Robert Stott, the owner of the mill. The clerk of the court pointed out that Mr. Stott could not do anything to stop the minder from allowing this kind of thing, apart from dismissing them. Mr. Crabtree said that the building occupier is responsible in the eyes of the law, but if Mr. Stott wishes to proceed against the minder, he would appear as a witness on his behalf. Stott was fined 2 shillings and 6p plus costs. Stott and Thatcher went into voluntary liquidation in 1929, and the Lancashire Cotton Company rented the premises before its eventual demolition in 1936. The site is entirely a housing estate now. The mill itself was used to fill in its own reservoirs. This photo just about shows the 3 mills. This is the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Cotton Warehouse. Behind it is the Albert. To the right is the rebuilt Acre, now steam-powered, and these are the reservoirs of the Alexandra, with Acre Lane through the middle. The Albert Mill was on Cromford Street, and was built some time prior to 1869, when one of its many extensions was made. The mill was built on and added to every few years for most of its life. It ceased production in 1931, but reopened in 1947 as the Oldham Tyre Cord Company. Due to a lack of orders because of tyre imports, the workforce was gradually reduced from 1977 until its closure in 1981. It became a multiple occupancy for a variety of businesses, but was emptied in April 2008 after the issuing of a compulsory purchase order. The £2 million mill was demolished to make way for the new tram station, housing, a public square and retail development. The developer, Gleeson's Homes, said at the time, demolition costs of up to £100,000 have been agreed, but before work can begin, there will have to be asbestos and bat surveys. The Albert Mill was just one of many buildings that had to make way for Metrolink. Others in Durker included the Gardener's Rest on Acre Lane and the Alexandra Pub on Durker Street. All 3 were recommended for preservation. A report by Oldham Council's Executive Director of Regeneration, Tom Flanagan, says, "The demolition of the mill will present a positive image to the residents of Durker." After many years of what the residents see as inactivity, The demolition of the mill is a sign that something is happening. Thanks for embarking on another adventure with me. I know it's been a while. These mill episodes take many days to research and edit, and there's only little old me to do it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your insights, theories, or your own historical tidbits below. Let's keep the conversation alive, even when the episode ends. Your comments make this journey richer.